I'm Melissa Case from Hat to Hem, and today I am making the work dress from Ever After. If you're interested in the breakdown of all the elements of the dress, you can check out my analysis video. If you want to watch a video about how I padded my dress form so I could drape the bodice I'm about to drape, you can check that video out also. And if you want to see how I made this chemise, that video, along with the others, will all be in my description below or in the Ever After work dress playlist that I'm hopefully making. I say hopefully, none of the videos have been edited yet, so who knows. Alright, that's enough of an intro. I have literal hours of House of the Dragon podcast all queued up to listen to. Let's finally make this dress. The first thing I did was drape the underbodice. I knew for a fact that there was a side back seam that's open, but other than that, it looks like it's all more or less one piece-ish. Upon closer examination, it did look like the straps have an extra seam in them, so I tried to mirror that, which ended up working, which you'll see in a second. I ended up putting it back onto the dress form because I wasn't 100% happy with how it fit. I thought it'd be a little bit tighter. So in order to do that without putting in any darts or seams or anything like that, so I ended up having to pull the front piece a bit tighter, which ended up completely throwing off the sides. Luckily, I was able to just pin a bit of scrap fabric behind it and make a new pattern piece by combining scrap fabric along with the original draped fabric. I cut the lining out using a slightly sturdier cotton twill, and then I cut the blue fabric on the bias. The original fabric had a diamond pattern, and the fabric I'm using is slightly textured, so by cutting it on the bias, it will kind of look like there's diamonds, and hopefully it'll give just a little bit of contrast to the rest of the dress. I flatlined the fashion fabric to the cotton. To give myself one less raw edge to worry about, I sandwiched the strap of the back piece into the other little tiny strap that I have here. Once I flipped the strap fabric right side out, the back raw edge was completely encased in the strap, so that's one less thing to worry about. I put the bodice back on my dress form because I wanted to make sure the placement of the front straps was correct. And now, this is what I have so far. Now, habit has me want to bind the raw edges and put in the eyelets and completely finish this particular part of the project. However, I know it would probably be smarter to get started on the next step first. And that's not just because I know binding is incredibly boring for me. I want to make sure that the next layer fits properly. So if I need to take this apart and alter it a little bit, it's going to be easier to do that before this is all bound with the eyelets and everything. So this is good enough for now, and I can move on to the actual dress. I know that looks unprofessional. It's going to look better when I'm done, I promise. Or at least I hope it will. Alright, so this is where we're at right now, and I think I'm happy with it. I think it's hitting all the right spots right now. I think it looks good from behind. The armholes are a mess, but that's not something I'm worried about at the moment. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch this down by hand. It would have been quicker to make this some kind of bag lining, but that's not what I want. I didn't want to risk there being a white outline here. And you do see a white inner lining in the actual movie, so I'm not concerned about that, which is another reason not to do, like, you know, make this one piece and then do a bag lining. I think this is probably the better option. It's just going to take a little bit of time. That's alright. I can't do it as quickly as I would on a machine, but I think it will be quick enough. Alright, so here is where I'm at with the bodice. It's all assembled now. I still have some basting threads in the seams here, but that's alright. I'll worry about that later. But I finished off all the edges as well as the armhole. The only thing that's left is the bottom edge. The other thing I did was I put some zip tie boning in the front here, because when I tie this shut, I don't want it to only pull at the areas where the ties are. I want it to look a little bit more even than that, so hopefully the zip ties give it a little bit more structure. I sincerely doubt this is how they did it in the actual movie, but at this point it also has to look good just for anybody who happens to see it, so that's where my mentality is right now. Alright, so I guess that next is going to be getting the trim on. Right now, the trim in the movie, it kind of has like a bit of a gold sheen to it sometimes. And I couldn't really find anything that had that. So I wanted to experiment to see if there's anything I could do. Unfortunately, I don't have any gold paint on hand, but I did have this bronzy kind of paint. And I also had some gouache right here. So I decided to experiment. There's the bronze, and then some gold and yellow gouache, some mixing. So you can see here that would, the end right here, it's just with the bronze paint, and it's just, yeah, it's okay. It definitely looks more bronze than gold in person, which makes sense. Then we had a little bit of a yellow-orange mix, and then we had when I didn't dab the brush enough. And then we have up here, which I think might be our best option. So that was this color, really blotted a lot. And then we got us right here. And I think that might give us just enough to give a little bit of dimension and make it a little more interesting than just flat black. But we'll see. I'm getting ready to work on the front closure. And I thought that just one piece of yarn just wasn't enough. So I decided to experiment. So I have a 3-strand here, and then this one here is 4 strands. And I think the 3-strand one is the way I'm going to go. I feel like the 4-strand one is a little too thick and it doesn't really want to bend as nicely there. Though that might have been more to my braiding than to the actual braid. But I think the 3-strand one is where I'm going to go. So I'm just going to quickly do some braiding, I guess. Alright, here's the trial, and I like the way it fits. I think this is a success, which is good because I wasn't 100% sure I knew what I was doing. But I think we are good here, and I think we can move on to the rest of the costume. While I was studying this dress, I didn't notice any holes in the bodice for the sleeves to be attached. I decided to just sew the yarn to the inside of the bodice, hiding the stitches in the trim. I knotted the end of the yarn in attempts to give it a little extra protection from just pulling through. Now that all the sewing over the trim was done, I created the paint mixture from earlier and brushed it over the trim. I did my best to measure myself for the sleeves. You'll see how that turns out in a little bit. I cut out the amount of fabric I expected to need for the sleeve gauntlets. This left me with just enough fabric for the skirt. The skirt is just one long rectangle, so I stitched up the seam, and then came the long process of getting the skirt attached to the bodice. I know it's nitpicky, but this right here is bothering me, so I think I might have to try and figure out a way to fix that. And here's the finished dress. On the whole, I think I did a pretty decent job with this given what I had. Obviously the fabric wasn't exact and my time constraints were a little bit tight, but still, I'm pretty proud of how close this looks to the original. The only thing I would really want to redo before I wear this dress again would be the sleeve gauntlets. I feel like they just ended up being way too small, especially the top one. And I also would have interlined them so that they had a little bit more structure because they got pretty saggy during the day. But still, I'm overall pretty happy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to like it. Please leave a comment below letting me know what you think. Thank you so much to my patrons on Patreon who were so patient about me getting this video out. I don't know why, but it just took me ages to actually sit down and edit this video. I felt like every time I sat down something would happen or I would just lose focus, so I am honestly pretty glad to have this video done. I'm still glad I made it though, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Oh, I also wanted to say thank you because I recently surpassed 7,000 subscribers, which is just bonkers to me. I can't believe that happened. So if you are watching this video and you're subscribed to my channel, thank you. Alright, that's all I have to say, so I will see you next time. Bye!